advice I have for anyone embracing product thinking is to get to know your audiences. It sounds so simple, I know, but where do you even start? Maybe your audience is small and you already know everybody by name. Or maybe your audience is so large that you aren't even sure how to learn about them beyond what you see in your analytics platform. No worries. I'm going to introduce you today to some methods and frameworks that you can use to go a step beyond what you see in your analytics dashboard. It's time to get to know aspects of your audience's habits, motivations, and preferences that can't be measured. First, let's talk about audience funnels. It's a hot topic in journalism lately, but it's a concept that's been used for many years by marketers of many different industries. It helps us understand how people flow through different stages of engagement and loyalty, or the buying stages of a product. Product and audience strategists use the audience funnel to track prospective audiences and to align tactics or product strategies to move your audiences through your funnel to becoming more loyal to your product. There's no one way to create a funnel, but the stages should make sense to your organization's business needs. Here's one example. Let's say our news organization has identified that subscriptions is our business model. Our first stage of the funnel might look something like this: reach and attract. And then we want to funnel our audiences to the hook and engage stage, and then convert them to paying subscribers, and then keep them as paying subscribers. Building your funnel and defining the stages is only the start of this method. You'll then want to identify tactics that can help your audiences become more loyal to your product, and you want to identify metrics along the funnel that can help you measure success. Let's quickly go through one example. Let's say we want to move at least 25% of our readers from the reach and attract funnel stage to the hook and engage funnel stage. So we think our email newsletter will be key in developing this kind of loyalty, and we've identified a tactic to get people to sign up and read more stories in our email newsletter. You'll also want to identify metrics associated with each tactic so you know whether each tactic is successful in meeting your overall goal. Maybe we're going to measure the total number of signups or the average number of clicks per reader from the newsletter to our website. And we also want to know the increase in frequency of newsletter opens per reader. Using the funnel discipline helps you visualize the stages of audience loyalty and set and monitor tactics that help you reach your business goal and help your audiences find value in your product. A great resource for diving into more on funnel discipline is betternews.org, and we can also talk more in our discussions this week. So as we've seen, connecting your tactics to your audience needs and using the funnel as a guide is fundamental for product thinking. And often this requires getting to know your audiences on a different level beyond just the data you have about your products. You can use a number of techniques for qualitative and demographic research that help you build profiles of your audiences, which helps you become more targeted and intentional in your plans. From user interviews to focus groups and to surveys, you can ask your readers questions you typically can't find answers to just from your analytics. In this module's recommended readings, I'll link to some resources that provide details on the most common forms of research. But here are a few that I recommend you try. Focus groups. Lead a discussion around a particular topic, providing structured exercises or prompts. Diary studies let you recruit audiences to self-report about their experiences with a product or about a topic over a period of time. And card sorting lets you ask participants to sort items into categories to help you learn about their product needs or how they navigate your websites. And user interviews are a way to conduct one-on-one interviews with participants about specific topics. You can also use surveys. Ask your audiences questions about your product or their needs. After analyzing both qualitative and quantitative data, you can then group your audiences into segments, personas, archetypes, or typologies. Before we get into the differences of each of these terms, let's talk about why this approach is important. If we were to treat all of our audience members the same, or worse, if we were to treat them the same without knowing anything about them, we're not going to be able to identify the kinds of tactics that you'd need to implement to align with your funnel goals. So the approach you take here will depend on your product and your goal, but I'm going to go over each type of audience profile and use case. Let's start with personas. Personas are fictional characters representing your product's user or customer. They can be pretty detailed with information about where that fictional character lives or works, or what kind of car that they drive, or where they shop, or what kind of news they consume. Because these profiles are often rooted in demographic data and other research, personas can help you with a day-in-the-life look at your typical audience members. Archetypes and segments can go a little broader to capture a pattern of characteristics. Rather than using a fictional name and face, these segments usually have a label based on common information for a representation of your audience. Let's use an example from Claritas, which is an industry leader in segments based on demographic data and research. I'll link to this source in our readings for the week. One of their segments is labeled Big Fish, Small Pond, which means people who are older, upper class, and among leading citizens of small town communities. You don't just have to segment your audience based on demographics or user research. You can also create segments based on how people use your products. For example, maybe you have an engaged group of people who prefer to watch video when they reach your website. This segment's needs might differ greatly from other segments of your audience, so you'd want to figure out tactics specific to this segment to help them move through your audience funnel. I'm curious if you've created personas or segments for your newsroom. How do you use them? In discussion boards, let's talk more about creating segments and which type to use and how to use them for your specific needs. Also, be sure to look at the readings and links that I've included for this module, because they go over some very specific ways that you can use some of this qualitative research to your advantage. You'll need to use data from all of these categories and more to ensure you're connecting metrics to your overall strategy. For instance, for our example goal of increasing visit frequency, we need to understand how that goal ties into our overall strategy of growing subscriptions, and how to use KPIs found in other sets of data, like your subscriptions database. Thinking holistically about data analysis is a key step in product thinking, and I'd love to hear your questions or ideas for using data to drive your own goals. So join me in this week's discussion boards. In the next video lesson, we're going to dive into qualitative data a bit more so you can learn how to understand the motivations of your audiences and act upon them.